Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fisdap Tips and Tricks webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that due to the volume of attendees, all lines have been muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them through the chat and we'll address them at the end of the webinar. Today's Tips and Tricks topic is program organization and efficiency. Our host is Ben Tape, a solutions consultant who has been with Fisdap since 2015. So without further delay, I'll pass it off to you, Ben.
Thanks, Haley. As mentioned, today's topic is going to be on program organization and efficiency. Specifically, one of the main features we're going to talk about is the student groups. So first thing, as always, with Fisdap here, we want to go ahead and get logged into our Fisdap account. And once you've done so, you're going to be sent to the dashboard. So to edit your student groups, quickest way is just to go to the orange account tab at the top of the page, and then find student groups in the program settings section. One thing we haven't talked a lot about in these webinars is that these different sections are related to specific permissions for instructor accounts. So just do a quick detour if we go into the instructor account information tab section, and then we come up to someone who, in this case, this is my instructor account that we're using. You'll see that there are the various permissions here, and in the program permissions there are ones like edit order accounts, edit instructor accounts, edit student accounts, and edit program settings, as well as admin evals, exams rather. This last one we're going to ignore for the moment, but I wanted to point out these four because these are the four sections that we see on the account page itself. So editing student groups gives you access to the student accounts section. Editing instructor accounts gives you access to the instructor accounts sections. Editing the program settings gives you access to the program settings, and then order accounts gives you access to the order accounts. So if for whatever reason your instructor account doesn't have one or all of these boxes, the reason is due to the permissions that you have. So you would just want to speak to someone who has the edit instructor account permission and make that change. Or if you have edit instructor accounts yourself, you can also go back into instructor account information, find your account, and make the change that you need so that you can have all the access that you need. So in this case, again, we're talking about student groups. So with program settings, we find student groups, and you can click there. It's going to list out your active groups, and then you can also see inactive groups. This program doesn't have any, but if we were to say, for example, take group A and click deactivate, we can click confirm, and it doesn't delete it, it just moves it into the inactive section so that if for whatever reason it is done there. So we can still go in and edit it and make any changes we need to, and you could still take care of it that way. I'm going to go ahead and reactivate it by changing the active time. We'll say this is active until the end of the year, and I'll hit save, and then now you'll see it's back to being active. So easy way, if you ever deactivate one on accident, no problem, just go into the inactive, find it, edit, and change the active date. So in this case, again, we've already made one. I could make another student group by clicking the plus student group button, and we have all the edit information. We can make that and go on from there. In this case, I'm just going to use the group A account there, student group that we have, and show you what all you can do with it. So first things first, what we want to do is select it and click edit. We could then change the name to whatever we want. Let's just say we want to call it Group Alpha. And we can also change the active dates as we just saw. So now let's say, you know what, actually I don't want it till the end of the year. I want it till the end of next year. So we can move this to December of 2020 and select that. And now we've got this good for quite a while. The next section here, and this is a very important one, it says only send email notifications about this student group to the selected instructors. So normally, if you don't check this box, the students in this group will, if they complete a narrative, or if they have late data or anything like that, and other instructors who are not listed here have the settings turned on to receive those emails, they will get them even if they're not the instructors for the group. So it's very important, if you want to limit the emails that your instructors get to only the students they're working with, you're going to definitely want to check this box. Again, whenever we have these orange circles with the question marks, that's showing you, that's going to tell you exactly what it means by this if the sentence is unclear, essentially it just has a little more clarification for that. So again, it's saying that if you check this box, the emails for the students will only be sent to those instructors. Otherwise, all instructors will receive them, assuming that they do have the other settings permission. So just to talk about where that is, I'm going to jump back to the instructor accounts. And you can see that in this gray box here in the edit instructor accounts, there's student events. And so that's things like the critical thinking questions or narrative emails will be student events. Otherwise, you can also select for the late data emails there. So if someone has this checked and you don't check this box, then they will get a notification regardless of if they are the instructor selected here or not. So I'm going to select that. Then we can select the students that we want to add to it. So we click the Add Remove option, and we've got several students here. So let's say I don't want all of them. I want Angela, I want Lyra, I want, we'll do Michael in this group as well. So we could make it with just these three. If I decide, you know what, I actually don't want all these people, I can actually just click the Remove All button. So the double arrow to the right will remove all of them. Double arrow to the left. Double arrow to the right will add all of them back in under the available. And you can even use the filters here to separate it down. So again, with 6 students, it's not a huge deal, but if you had, say, 10, 20, 15, 100 students, it can be a lot to have to go through individually and select them. And yes, you could, use either shift. If you hold down shift when you're selecting, it'll select everyone on the list, or you could do, if you hold down Control as you're selecting, it'll select the individual people you select. So there are options of how to get it, more smoothly, so you can just move all the people you selected over. But the filters can actually make this even easier. So if we open this up, one thing right at the bat we can do is limit it by certification. So if I selected paramedic, for example, it would only show active paramedics, which in this instance are the same. These students are all paramedic students. So that's not super helpful here. We could, if we wanted to, limit by student group. Now this is a little bit weird because at the moment we don't have any students in the student group, so you're not doing it. But if you were, for example, wanting to combine multiple groups, you could say, okay, I want to pull the students from group A, students from group B, and so on and so forth. And then you would it would filter down that way. You can also do by graduating time or graduation status. So if you wanted to look at any students who, basically all your students, not just active, you could click that. Again, all these students in my program are active at the moment. And then we could do by graduating year. So for example, I could look at only the students graduating in 2024, which are just Angela and Lyra. So we could, in this case, since it's everyone, we could click the Move Everyone over, and it's everyone in the selected group that meet our requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and add just one more student here. We'll go ahead and add Michael back in, and I'm going to hit confirm. And once we do that, as you can see, here are these students. And again, we're editing this, so this is something that you can always come back and add or remove students as you need. So if a student drops the course and you need to remove them from the student group, not a problem. You come back in here, click Add Remove, select who you need to remove, and put them back in. Same thing if you need to add someone in. So it's very, very flexible depending on what you're trying to work with. Instructors. So again, this is where by clicking this box, we're only going to send these emails about these students to the selected instructors. So Fisdap Robot is who I'm logged into right now. That's our primary person. I want that. So we could do that. We could also do Joanne Smith, and then that way these 2 instructors will receive emails about these students when they fill out narratives or if they have late data. But my other account and the Preceptor Training account, those will not be notified because they are not selected instructors, and we've checked the box to only send these emails to the selected instructors. Finally, teaching assistants. This is something that we sort of started, we use as something that maybe we would do more with later. We have not ever expanded on the teaching assistants aspect. So, but if you wanted to indicate a student as a TA, you could do that by selecting them and adding them here. But again, that feature is not really used anywhere else in the system. So primarily when you're making a student group, I would recommend focusing on the students and the instructors. So if we have all this good to go, what we can do now is just hit save. And hopefully it will not take too long here. But I'm just going to go ahead and bring us back to the student group page. Didn't like that. And I'll come back to student groups here. And now you can see group albums here. And we've got our students and instructors and everything there. So apologies that didn't load properly, but did save, so we're all set there. So now we're good to go ahead and use this student group in as many places as basically anywhere that you can use that filter bar, we can now use this student group. So, for example, one of the big features that I use this for when I'm helping instructors is on the account page, the student search option. So this is a really handy way if you're ever looking for information on your students. You can come to Student Search, you can look for specific people, or sometimes you can just click the Show All Students. Now again, Show All Students is a risky button to click if you have a lot of students in your program, because it's not just showing, when you click Show All, it's not just active students or any specific list. It's literally any student who's ever been in your program, whether they're active, graduated, or anything like that. If they left the program, it's all going to be included. So when you do that, what it's going to do is show this information here, their name, their username, their email. If they had a cell phone listed, it would have that there, cert level, grad date, and the products that they have. So this is one of the few places that you can actually see what products a student has. So if students ever saying, hey, I don't have access to the exams, you can come in here and see if they do or not. And so as you can see, if you hover over these shields, it'll tell you what products they have. So we know the student has the Skills Tracker Unlimited, Schedule Unlimited, the comprehensive and unit exams, and then the study tools as well. So everything that you might need, this student has, but if they didn't have these shields, then they would not have those products. The other thing that's neat about this is that the names here are a link, and it'll actually take you to the edit page for this student. So as you can see here, it's got their, the first name, last name, email. If you want to edit their phone or their address, or their emergency contact, if you need to reset a password for them, all that can be done here, in addition to setting their grad date individually, as well as capstone and their progress. So, for example, if we needed to graduate Angela, we could now switch this to graduate and hit save. But in this instance, I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and click out of this and bring us back to here. So, one of the reasons, again, why we wanted to bring you here after talking about student groups is that you can use this filter here to filter to a specific group. So if you needed to, say, email everyone in a specific group, you can come to Student Search, find all the students in a specific group, and now we've got our group alpha. It's just our 3 students here. And you could make a PDF list of this group. You could make a spreadsheet list of this group. But then you can also click the email button. And what this is going to let you do is send a message with the subject and whatever message you want. You can have it include a copy to yourself. And then you can even have it send a direct email or a My Fisdap message, which My Fisdap message comes in on the dashboard in the announcements page. So in this first box here, so if we were to send that message, it would show up here for the students as a My Fisdap message. And then both will do exactly what it says. It'll send the email, and it'll also send the My Fisdap message to their announcements page. If you do the email, normally it's going to send from the Fisdap robot, so essentially the Fisdap system is sending out that email. But if you choose to use a personal client, it can use your direct email, whatever that may be, to send that email out. So you would just, again, put your subject in, put your message in, and select how you want to send, and then just click the send button. In addition here, we do have additional columns that you can see if you need. As you can see, we have these ones selected, but let's say you wanted to have their grad stats listed as well. You can click that, and now we have grad stats show up, and they are all in progress. So again, very helpful for limiting down to groups, finding specific people that you might need, or sending messages, making lists, anything like that. This is a great resource for it. The other places that student groups can be very handy is in graduation status editing. So as noted previously, or prior, when we had gone into Angela's specific account, you could change the graduation status of a student directly. That's great if you have one student that you need to change, but if you have a whole cohort graduating, it's not as user-friendly to go in to each individual student and make that change that you might need. So that's where the graduation status page comes into play, because you can actually make changes en masse to your students. So what you can do is select individual people, or you could select all, and it'll select everyone. Or again, in this case, we can use these same filters that we keep seeing, and we can filter down to this specific group. And now we can click all to just edit this one group. And then we could either edit the graduation date, in which case we put a new date on there. So let's say we want everyone to graduate in July of 2022. And then we can also update the grad status. So if you did want to graduate them, and you can even mark the good data as well for them, and you can do this on that. So I'm going to leave them as in progress, but we'll go ahead and update their grad date. And now you can see they're all showing a grad date of December of 2022. So this, again, very flexible. It's going to filter by how you want to filter. I've only been filtering just the group here, but let's say, I should have done this before, change the grad date, but let's say we have these two that we are having a grad date of 2024. We'll go ahead and hit save. So say we're filtering here, and we want to look at group alpha, but we also only want to see the students that are graduating in 2024. You can select that, and now it's only pulling those students that have that grad date that are also within this group. So these requirements that we have set up, or the filters that we have set up here, they do stack on top of one another so that you can really grab whatever you need to, or find the students you need to, make those changes that you need to, and you'll be all set there. The next piece that I want to show is then how you can also use these student groups with creating new accounts. So if you come back to the account page, and now we're going to go all the way down to buy new accounts, then what you can do is select when you're creating what type of accounts you want to create. There's an option to say graduating date, so you can put in a graduating date automatically so that when you have the codes created, the students will automatically be in that group, have that graduating year, and then same thing for the student group. So what I'm going to do here is we'll make sure it'll be an EMT. We'll say graduating of January of 2022, and we want to put them into group alpha. So in this instance, I'm actually going to select the account holders will pay, which is the students. So this will make a student pay code. This is not necessary. You can do the creating these codes to put them in a specific group will actually work whether you pay for them as the program or the students pay for themselves. In this case, just because I don't want to actually pay for this, I'm going to go ahead and have the students pay. So then you would just go through the process as you normally would when ordering an account. You would select the products you want to get. Let's say we're going to have them just get the internship package, and then you would go to the a la carte page if you want to add anything on top of that. Let's say, sure, we're going to add the comprehensive exams as well. And then we get to the order summary. And with a student pay code, the order summary is just going to say what products you've selected, what the cost per account is, and it'll have the code. This is not a permanent code yet until you click confirm order. So you wouldn't just want to copy and paste it here. You do want to click the confirm order, which we will in a second. But I also want to point out that over here it has the cert level, the grad date, and the group it's going to put them into. So I can click confirm order. And now we've got that code. It is a official code now, and we could even email it out to our students if we wanted to, and you can see what the preview email looks like, where it's going to have various options of if you don't have an account, it'll have a link to create one, you can upgrade an existing one, so on and so forth here. So what we can then do is, if we were to log out of our account here, and then click on create an account. So from the student's end, what they would do is come here, enter that code, and then again, we see that it's saying you're going to be this code is going to make you an account, an EMT account at Fisdap 101. That's the program we were in group alpha. So that's the group we selected with that grad date built in. Now those two pieces, again, the group that they get put into and the built-in grad date, those are not required when you're creating accounts this way. Those are optional. If they don't have it selected, then the students would enter their estimated grad date when they create the account, and then you would just, once they have the account created, you would then put them into the program or into the student group that you want to see them added to. So then again, they could go through and go to the billing information and get all set there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get logged back into my instructor account here. And what I want to show now is that filter of where we can filter down to the student groups that we've selected, we've mostly been showing ways you can use the account page to maximize that, but there are those filters appearing in a lot of other places as well. So one of the big places is obviously in the skills and patient care, where you can come in and select from your list of students, but instead of doing all active students, we can select just group alpha. And now we can see just these 3 students. And again, it makes it easier to jump to the specific students you need to when you have a lot of students. So using these groups can really organize it. Another really handy place is on the scheduler. So for example, if we come to this shift from December 4th and we wanted to, assign the students, let's say they actually went there, but we failed to get them assigned to it before hand, that's no problem. We can click the assign drop. And again, it's our list of 6 students, but let's say it was our group alpha was there for that one. We can select it down to group alpha. It's just these 3 students. I can click the add all of them, and now we hit save, and now these 3 get added to it very easily. Again, without needing to go individually and click one at a time. Again, another time that's incredibly helpful is when you do have a group of, say, 20 students and they're all going to the same lab shift. Instead of adding those students individually 20 times, you can, because you have a group, say, all right, just filter down to that group and add them all. So very, very helpful in that regard for that. Same as well if you were to go to the reports page, and any of our reports where you can run it for more than 1 student, or even when you can only run it for 1 student, you should be able to have this filter option. So for example, if you were to go to the graduation requirements report, then you could go ahead and fill out the parameters as you would normally. So you can do your goal set, your locations, your date range, shift status, patient type, all that kind of stuff, your ALS definition. Then again, when you're selecting which students you want to run it for, you can do the individual, but we still have that same filter where we can select that group and we can move them over, and now we can run this for that group en masse without having to individually select them or individually run the report. And again, it's just going to save you time as you're trying to audit your students as you go through. These students obviously have not done very much, but at least we are able to have all their data all together for each of the categories here, and you'll be all set. And again, I mentioned you can even do this for reports where you only select 1 student at a time. So for example, if you were trying to look at the new Appendix G individual report, we have that same filter, and this time it actually, because we're moving from one report to another, it kept the filters that we had selected, so it is selecting to just group alpha. So again, I'm only able to select 1 student for this report, but it is limiting it to the 3 students in that group. So with this example where we only have 6 students in the whole program, again, it's not the biggest deal if you don't make a student group, but if you have multiple groups running at the same time, or even if you just have a lot of students, it can be very, very helpful to break them down into these groups so that you can just make your life easier anytime you're trying to do things in Fisdap that has this filter option here. So with that, I will just check to see if we have any questions from the group. And I am not seeing anything coming in. So I will go ahead and pass it back to Haley.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. We'll be taking a quick break from tips and tricks for the holidays, but we'll be back on Wednesday, January 8th. To stay up to date on upcoming webinars or to see recordings of previous webinars, you can visit go.fisdap.net/tipsandtricks. Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays.